They want you to believe the system is airtight. Every gun tracked, every buyer screened, every transfer logged. That's the illusion. But the truth? The law still leaves cracks. And even through those cracks, entire categories of firearms slip legally. No background check, no federal dealer, no paper trail. It sounds impossible, and that's exactly why most people never see it coming. While the media screams about ghost guns and gun show loopholes, the real story is quieter and more dangerous for the people trying to control it. Because under federal law, there are guns you can still own with zero FFL involved. Guns you can buy, build, or inherit without touching the system they've spent years telling you is mandatory. But here's the part they don't put in headlines. What's legal in Arizona or Texas could get you arrested in California or New York. The rules change with the map, and that's exactly how they like it. So tonight, we're pulling back the curtain, counting down 10 guns you can get without the paperwork. And the last one? It's a rifle they fear more than anything else. Buckle up. Number 10. Replica black powder guns. Let's kick things off with a real curveball. Replica black powder guns. They look like something from the Civil War. Flintlocks, cap and ball revolvers, even Sharps rifles. But here's the twist. These aren't antiques pulled from dusty glass cases. They're brand new. Companies like Pieta, Uberti, and Petasoli still make them today. And under federal law, they don't even count as firearms. That means no FFL, no background check, no stack of paperwork. You can literally buy one online and have it shipped straight to your front porch. Don't mistake them for decoration either. A reproduction Remington 1858 or Colt 1860 will still bark smoke and lead just like the originals. Some shooters even drop in conversion cylinders and run modern cartridges through them. So while the media panics about loopholes, one of the widest open doors sits in plain sight. A six-shooter designed from the 1980s, still legal, still functional, and still arriving in a cardboard box. Number 9. BB guns and air rifles. Coming in at number 9, let's talk about the one nobody expects to see on a list like this. BB guns and air rifles. Yeah, you heard that right. Not Nerf toys, not Red Ryder Christmas specials. I'm talking about full-powered pellet rifles that can drop small game or punch holes in targets at 50 yards. Here's the crazy part. Under federal law, they're not even firearms, which means no background check, no FFL, no forms. Walk into a sporting goods store with cash or click add to cart online and it's yours. That simple. And don't underestimate them. A decent .22 caliber air rifle hits hard, accurate enough for hunting rabbits or controlling pests. Plenty of folks even use them as training tools, same fundamentals as shooting powder burners, minus the recoil and paperwork. Sure, a few states treat them differently, but federally, they slide right past the system, and that's what makes them so fascinating. The law says they don't count, but in the right hands, they definitely do. Number 8. Antique firearms, pre-1899. Now here's where the countdown takes a sharp turn, straight back in time. Antique firearms, anything built before January 1st, 1899, isn't even considered a firearm under federal law. Let that sink in. A Colt or Smith & Wesson revolver from the 1800s? No background check, no FFL. You can buy it like you were picking up an old pocket watch at an estate sale. Collectors love these because they're not just history pieces, they still work. A well-kept Remington or Mauser can fire modern ammo to this day. Imagine holding a revolver that rode through the Wild West and knowing you got it without signing a single form. But here's the twist. The freedom depends on where you live. Some states treat antiques like modern guns, piling on their own restrictions. Others, they still respect the federal line. So yeah, they're over 120 years old, but they're also one of the cleanest ways to own a firearm without ever touching the federal system. History, function, and freedom all rolled into one. Number 7. Curio and Relic Firearms, CNR 50+ years old. A rifle that stormed the beaches in World War II, and you can still buy it with fewer hoops than most modern guns. That's the world of Curio and Relic Firearms. By federal definition, anything 50 years old or more, or guns the ATF specifically hosts as historically significant, gets dropped into this category. Think Mosin Nagants, early SKS carbines, M1 Garands, even certain Cold War sidearms. Collectors chase them for the history. Shooters chase them because many are still as reliable today as they were when they were issued. And here's the kicker. Under federal law, they aren't handled the same way as brand new production rifles. That's why CNR license holders can even have them shipped right to their door. Now, some states muddy the waters with their own restrictions, but federally, these classics occupy a sweet spot between antique and modern. They're not dusty relics that just sit on some wall. They're battle-tested tools, 50 years or older, that still count as legal buys outside the standard grind. Number 6. Inheritance family transfers. No dealer, no forms, no fee. Sometimes the only thing you need to own a firearm is a last name. Under federal law, guns passed down through family or written into a will don't require a background check or an FFL transfer if it's within the same state. That means Grandpa's Colt 1911, Dad's hunting rifle, or even a full collection can move from one generation to the next without ever touching the federal system. No 4473, no NCIS call, just family property handed down. It's more than a transaction, it's a legacy. For a lot of Americans, that first firearm isn't bought in a store, it's inherited, and the law still respects that tradition. Now, the details can shift depending on where you live. A few states demand registration even after inheritance, but federally, bloodline trumps bureaucracy. These aren't loophole guns, they're heirlooms, and they slide past the paperwork the same way they always have. Number 5. Mosin Nagant and surplus bolt guns. $100 used to buy you a rifle that marched through 2 world wars. The Mosin Nagant, ugly, heavy, kicks like a mule, but still one of the most recognizable surplus rifles in America. Here's the wild part. Under federal law, you can buy one through a private sale. No background check, no dealer involved, as long as both parties live in the same state. Same goes for countless other surplus bolt guns floating around. Mausers, Enfields, Arasakas, millions were imported and they're still circulating hand-to-hand daily. Collectors love them for history. Hunters use them because they're cheap, rugged, and chambered in powerful calibers. And survivalists, they like the idea of a $300 warehouse that'll outlast them. Sure, states like California have outlawed these private sales, but in free states, these rifles are still a backdoor into owning military history without the red tape. A Mosin may rattle your teeth loose, but it'll also remind you how much freedom still slips through the cracks. Number 4. DIY firearms, 80% kits and home built. Building your own gun isn't just a hobby anymore, it's one of the last legal ways to skip the system completely. Shotguns from parts, pistols from polymer 80 frames, rifles from 80% lowers. As long as you're building for yourself and following basic federal rules, you don't need a dealer, you don't need a background check, and you don't need a serial number. That's why the DIY world exploded. A Glock-style pistol with your grip, your slide, your trigger, an AR-15 that you machined from an unfinished block of metal, even a no-frills shotgun pieced together in a garage, they all fall into the same lane. Not firearms until you finish them. Of course, some states are catching on. Some demand serialization, others ban unfinished receivers entirely. But federally, the ground still holds, and that's why people chase it, not because it's easy, but because nothing screams freedom louder than a gun you built with your own 2 hands. Number 3. Ruger 1022, private sale. The most popular .22 rifle in America, and in the right state, you can buy it without a single form. That's the Ruger 1022. This rifle is everywhere. Kids learn to shoot on it, hunters take it after small game, collectors trick it out with custom stocks, barrels, and optics until it barely looks stock. It's reliable, affordable, and has been a staple for decades. Under federal law, private face-to-face sales don't require a background check if both buyer and seller live in the same state, which means that same 1022 you see on every gun rack can also change hands with no dealer and no paperwork. That's what makes this so surprising. We're not talking about antiques or obscure builds. We're talking about one of the most ordinary rifles in the country, quietly moving off paper where state law allows it. Number 2. Private sale of AK-47 variants. An AK-47 in your hands, no dealer, no background check, no federal trail. Sounds impossible, but in many states, it's still legal. Semi-auto AK variants like the WASR-10 or Century Arms builds have been circulating for decades. Rugged, reliable, and chambered in 7.62x39, they're the rifle the media loves to demonize. Yet, under federal law, a private sale between two residents of the same state doesn't need to go through an FFL. Cash, a handshake, and the deal is done. That's why these rifles spark so much debate. In California or New York, even owning one is outright banned. But in Texas, Arizona, or Florida, they change hands legally every day without a single form. Collectors chase them for history, shooters prize them for durability, and critics hate the fact that in the right states, the AK remains one of the easiest rifles to own off paper. This isn't a loophole, it's the law. And it proves that some rifles politicians fear the most are still moving legally right under their noses. Number 1. AR-15 from 80% lowers. The most talked about rifle in America, and you can build one yourself without a background check. That's the AR-15 from an 80% lower. Here's how it works. An 80% lower isn't a legal firearm. It's an unfinished chunk of aluminum or polymer. No trigger pocket cut, no fire-controlled holes drilled. Because of that, it ships straight to your door like any other piece of hardware. No FFL, no form, no federal oversight. Finish the machining, drop in your parts, and suddenly you've got a fully functional AR-15, customized, personalized, and built with your own two hands. For a lot of builders, it's not just about the gun, it's about freedom. It's about knowing every pin, spring, and screw because you put it there. Now, states are cracking down. Some demand serialization, others ban unfinished receivers outright. But under federal law, as long as it's for personal use, the AR-15 you built in your garage is as legal as the one sitting on the rack at the store. That's why this one tops the list. It's not obscure, it's not antique, it's the rifle they fear the most, and it's still one you can make on your own without ever touching the system. But before you start thinking the door is wide open, here's the reality check. Just because federal law leaves these options available doesn't mean your state does. What's perfectly fine in Texas could land you in court in California, and that's the trap a lot of people miss. Everything we've covered is federally legal, but states rewrite the rules constantly. Some require serialization, others ban private sales altogether. Remember, if you're prohibited under federal law, none of this applies. These aren't loopholes. This is the law as it stands right now. Freedom exists, but it lives in the fine print. Miss that, and you're playing with fire. So there you have it, 10 guns you can legally get without a background check. No FFL required. From black powder replicas that ship to your doorstep to a home-built AR-15 that rattles politicians to the core. The map is patchy, the rules change fast, but the fact remains, freedom is still out there. Not whispered, not hidden, written straight into the law. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these shocked you the most? Which one would you grab before lawmakers try to rewrite the book again? Drop it in the comments and let's see what everyone's thinking. And if you made it this far, hit like, share this video, and keep the conversation alive. Because one thing they fear more than these guns is you knowing the truth about them.